Greetings. I thought I would make another video. I happened to see a very amusing post of this woman basically looking like a roaring lion with the caption of when someone interrupts, which I found very funny. But there is a serious side to it, and it must be remembered a number of things. Firstly, whether you're coming from the truth-seeking side or the spiritual side, so often the case you are what is called the black sheep in the family. And there is no one-size-fits-all view situations, and this is very much about creating the world around yourself. And there is no hard and fast rule with this, because you're not all in a position to dramatically change the circumstances you may be in. And so often, particularly with the truth-seeking side, it is a picture of doom and gloom. And a very negative picture is painted, which is not really conducive to our spiritual well-being and staying in a higher vibration. Now, one way we can look at this is in the terms of warfare, because there is such a thing as a tactical retreat. And just because it is used in terms of war, well, what about flipping it over and using it for something with positive intentions? There is always duality and there is always choice. Now, you can put up with a lot of things. There may be, you just want the solitude and be able to meditate. But if you're coming purely from the side of benevolence and you've got someone who continually wishes to talk about themselves without being rude and setting up a negative vibration, there has to be other solutions to this. And I think this is important, to look at solutions, not focusing so much on what the long-term goal is and what seems almost impossible, but focus on the little things that. So, as an example of this, if you listen to this clone mentality of conversation, as you go through this awakening experience, your entire concept will change and you will not be able to relate to these people. And what they're actually talking about has no substance and is very superficial. And it can, if you allow it, drag your energy down and you can get loosed into these dramas. Basically a case of in 100 years' time, who's going to give a shit and who's going to care? It's the answer to a lot of this. It's just loopy vanity. And it's so tedious. Now we can allow this to drag us down and we end up feeling negative out of it, which is not ideal at all. So, but we can have fun. We can turn this round. A classic example will be the conversation that starts with something like, "You'll never guess what happened today." Now, you have to be very quick with the response to these, because they, although there's a question, they don't give you a chance to answer. So if someone says, "You'll never guess what happened today," try and get in there with, "Well, I could have a go if you want me to try," which will sort of throw them into confusion and stop them in their tracks, but they will still continue to tell you anyway. If, however, they phrase it, for example, "Guess what happened today," then again, you have to be quick, but you could say something like, "A bright pink airship landed in the street," to which they go, "No," and say, "Well, you did say guess what happened, so I'm having a guess." Again, that starts off a confusion, because you want to fuse out this AI circuit that's controlling them. Another good way is there is always talk about waking people up and discussion about that some people will not wake up. And no, they weren't. It is a waste of energy even trying, but it won't stop them trying to loose you into their dramas. And there's other ways you can deal with this. Some of this comes down to not only having an inner standing of yourself, but having an inner standing of what makes them tick. What are their triggers? If you've already planted seeds that have had a completely negative reaction and a complete shutdown of even willing to talk about it, you could chuck in on the end of whatever's being spoken about. You could, and nobody went to the moon, and that will normally get them scuttling away. There are various other ways. If you happen to be in front of a laptop, then of course you've always got YouTube to pull up something controversial, because what they don't want to hear, they will escape from, and you've achieved what you want to. You can also use the media to a huge advantage. If they are being sucked into the television, then suggest that there's a program on that they might like to watch, and then you throw that back to them, and it's a very subtle way of doing it. Oh, beachcombing. Good evening. Yes, it is a wonderful evening. That's another one that I often find with the conversations that you get from them. It is almost a statement, but it contains a question, and it also has the answer within the sentence built in. So you're left with the feeling of, well, how do I respond to that? Am I supposed to agree, disagree, or look indifferent? And you can always come out with a sort of expression that works quite well as well. You can have a game with this. You get all these facial expressions if you come out with something really bizarre. The other way to do it, I'll give you an example. When I was to go, oh, and they'll look round. Now, especially from the spiritual side, and from the truth-seeking side, let's start with the spiritual side. If you talk about things in the unseen realms and they're very much black and white, and if it isn't solid, it isn't here. Well, they're going to accuse you of being mad anyway, so you can use that to huge advantage, because you can get them scuttling away by saying, "Oh, I thought I saw an orb," when they look round and they can't see what you're looking at. The whole idea of this is to find something that diffuses it rather than gives them ammunition and fills them, because the idea is you're trying to, we're basically building a spiritual remote control with a mute switch on it. Because you'll notice every store and every shop you go into, it is a constant noise coming from overhead speakers. And another good answer to often come out with is, and you're telling me for what reason? And you can have a game with it, because the correct answer here is, I'm filling in the void because I can't stand silence. And obviously, if you're a person who likes to meditate, and you meditate for quite a long time, you want that calm and peace and that quiet, to stay in that inner peace, which is being continuously interrupted by these outside bombardments. And it comes down to whether you allow it. Another very good way is, as Nicole suggested on her television channel, is to wear your shadow self, and if you have to act with them. But it depends. It all depends on the individuals that you're coming up against. There's no hard and fast rules. We've got to be quite flexible about this, but it is fun to have a game. It really is. I mean, if you think of the Disney Pixar film Bug's Life, you have that ant that thinks out the box. And although the rest of them have this hive mentality and are more in fear of being ridiculed and will not step out of line, even if they can see it, which is a situation you get with the truth-seeking side, especially. And also the spiritual side. A lot of people will rubbish tarot cards and say, oh, it's a load of mumbo jumbo, for example, and you're never going to change their minds. So I wouldn't even waste my energy on them at all. You're just coming away feeling negative about it, and they've remember that it is not actually them; it is these parasites working through them. So we must feel pity for them as well, because they are the epitome. And pity is a kind of benevolence and kindness in a way, because we're not meant to take prisoners. And I don't have any FEMA camps, and I don't intend to either. I'll happily give a hand up and I'll try and plant seeds, but it's then a case of move on. We just keep going well on our path, and don't allow them to put you onto a side road which is going to lead in completely the wrong direction. So I keep forgetting to check these comments down the side. But yeah, it's all about how to deal with this daily routine. I'm lucky. I'm in a fortunate position where I don't have this false elation of hooray, it's Friday, and it's Monday, because one day is pretty much the same as the other. I don't plan a day out. It is dependent on if I get requests for healing or whatever happens to come into my mind, or something very therapeutic like doing a bit of DIY with recycled wood like I've done today. The tree has already been killed. It's anything rather than add to the landfill site. There's giving back to Mother Earth, and then there's just giving back to Mother Earth in the wrong way. And if I can reuse the wood, for example, floorboards are perfect. I'm making a spice jar rack, and I see it that the grain in that wood is telling the story of that tree, and even in that, it gets you back in touch, quite literally, with nature, a part of the tree that you wouldn't normally. Shall we say it's more intimate in a way, and it's also giving that tree a new life of sorts, rather than it's just a piece of wood that's going to go on a fire. But even if it comes to that, the ash can go in the ground and it provides nutrients for the soil. So it is still giving back. So there's no wrong answer with this, unless you're just going to put it in a landfill site and mixed in with plastic and things. I sort out what goes in the recycling. I'm not going to get into whether it is actually recycled and how much of it is recycled, because you hear various stories, and that is beyond the world that I'm trying to create. I will try and be inventive with things and look at everything I buy and think, if it's got packaging, what can I reuse it for? It's getting that balance between, you've got the spiritual, you've got the truth seeking, you've also got the giving back to Mother Earth as well. Because while we are in a physical form, then we are on a physical plane, and we need to, well, it's all about earthing anyway and being in contact with Earth. So respect it, I think, is the way. Do everything from the heart, but also keep that balance with the logic. You can be benevolent, but you can be over benevolent if it's going to attract vampires that are just going to drain the energy out of you. The energy that you, especially if you're a healer, if your energy is drained, then you're not really going to be helping someone that's asked for healing, for example. So it's looking after the soul the whole time. It is all about asking, because when you are asking, you are as king, and you do need to be sovereign to yourself. There's only so much you can do to help other people, but everybody has to do their own inner work. If they are not prepared to do it, then that is their choice, and there's nothing we're going to do to change their mind. So we don't take prisoners in this spiritual war, because then they become our responsibility, and we're responsible for ourselves. Everybody is responsible for themselves. I'm rolling a organic cigarette as we speak. But I thought I'd try and offer a solution, because there is so much with everything where, with the spiritual side, fine, there are solutions, but with the truth-seeking side, it's not offering solutions, it's just telling you what is, and often it is whether they be real or whether they be this controlled media or whatever. And it may just be a fabricated story. There's always an element of Hollywood to all of this. And again, that's another area we can get really sucked into. And then we're giving attention to false idols, particularly with Hollywood. And we don't really want to be doing that. It's enough to know that it's not a pleasant place, not somewhere I'd want to be. I mean, I am an actor. I'm on my own stage right now. This is live. And we can all do, I'm not saying it doesn't suit everybody to be in front of a camera. I did it for two reasons. It's almost like a diary. I can look back on my own spiritual growth through the older videos and refer back. And I'm going to write it down. I'm going to commit it to paper. But it doesn't suit everybody. It's also, there is that element of fear when you get in front of a camera, and it feels like you're talking to yourself, which you are effectively. But until you start doing it for a while, and depending on what you're saying as to how many people will want to hear what you've got to say. I mean, I'm really surprised with one of the videos. I wasn't particularly happy with it, but I thought, well, I could just keep redoing this and not achieving anything. It's getting the message out. I can fully relate to musicians, in particular composers, where it's said that they have this burning desire to create a particular piece of music, and they've got to get it out their system. And this is very much what these videos are about. I feel like I'm going to burst unless I share what comes to me, because it's not intended just for me, and that would be wrong, because it gives me a knowledge that I'm then using in a secretive way, which is not what this is about. It's about sharing the knowledge with everybody else. If people want to listen, they'll listen. If they don't want to listen, then they won't. If anybody was to come in cold, and this is a big if it was a level playing field and you got a fair chance of coverage, i.e. you're not paying for advertising, you're probably not going to appear on a search list, and very few people are going to find you. But quality over quantity. I'm sorry, I must keep up. I'm not keeping up with these comments. If you believe anything matters, yeah. I'll make a mental note of that. I will send you some healing once I've done this, because I can't really sort of mix the two. What else do we want to say? I could actually talk for hours, but no. As I've said before, what are we up to? 18 minutes. It's food for thought, and this. Here's another thing with the truth-seeking side. It is, in particular, you get this information and you can see something makes sense, and there is something very wrong with the way the story is being prayed, because there is always a basis of truth. I mean, a war on terror is a prime example. It's the truth. It's just the twist is the wrong spelling of and saying terror when it's actually a war on terror, as in terra firma. It's a war on earth chasing an invisible enemy that you never see. And it's a perfect pretense to justify keeping all that going and all the horrors that go with it. I could sit here and get very upset, and I can't do anything from here about what could or could not be happening, where children are either being deprived or being murdered. And I'm only going to get myself annoyed and upset and achieve nothing. I could take the chance and believe it all and become a mercenary and probably just get myself killed. And again, I haven't achieved anything. Or I can just try and spread a message, and hopefully it will send ripples out. It's more a case of not giving energy to the things we are trying to stop. You have to starve a monster. Another aspect with this looshing, with these energy vampires, it's finding a way to you don't want to feed them energy for a start. And the best way I would say is if you get that feeling about something isn't right with another person, it is a case of if that person no longer serves you, then cut off. And we must be clear on this distinction on serve. It's not the hierarchical serve. It's something that is going to benefit your soul and your energy. As opposed to having a power over. It's not that type of serving. I don't think I really need to say this. I'm sure the people, all of you here that are listening, fully understand and can relate to all of this. We are three in one. We are what's the mind, body, and soul. We're also students, we are teachers, and we're also observers, and it is very important to be an observer. Another amusing thing is actually a song title by a group called Hawkwind. If someone inquires about your name, wanting to confirm your identity, quite a good answer is to say, I am the eye that looks within. That normally will sort of send them away. And same with these telephone people you have to deal with for like internet connection. I'm not the bill payer, so they don't need to know my name. I'm just the representative of the person who is the bill payer. They've already got the information. I've already given them all the passwords. So no, they don't need my name. They just need to know I'm their representative. So I stick to my guns and I don't tell them. I just tell them it's irrelevant. And after about the third attempt, they go back to the rest of their script. Nuisance calls are another good one. Use the whole idea that people like to talk about themselves. And if you want to have a game with it, rather than getting annoyed with, oh, I've had a sales call again, somebody trying to sell me double glazing or whatever it happens to be, just ask them about the weather. Ask them what the weather's like where they are, or ask them how they are. And try and steer them. See, this was great at school. See, that's one good thing. That's one thing I did learn at school, because schools don't teach the one thing. A school of fish will stick together. And in example, tuna with a predatory shark will all come together and form a massive ball and spin round and intimidate the predator and send it away because they all work together. That's the one thing school doesn't teach. Ironic, really. But I've lost my train of thought. We must get back on track. That normally triggers it, but it's not happening this time. I'm going to have to backtrack now. You get an insight into the way my thinking processes go now. This is a rare moment. This is the dressing room. No, it's not going to come. Yeah, energy vampires. Yeah, cut off completely, because once someone is partially awake and turns dark, I'd just write them off, because you could actually, with deception is deception, and how do you really know when they've come back out from the dark, or is that just another mask? And you're going to get yourself all enmeshed and tied up, and there's the meshing coming in, and that's again is something I think to avoid, because at the end of the day, we all are here to go through experiences, and we do need to all look after our souls. It is a case of, same as on an aircraft, if you put the oxygen mask on yourself first, you're going to be more benefit than trying to save someone else and then you suffer as a consequence. That's the physical aspect. This is the spiritual aspect of that, and that's probably the best analogy I can give to that one. One more thing I did want to mention. There's a lot of, at the moment, it's picked up with, I think, the collective consciousness talking about this maritime or admiralty law and writing your own laws using common law. Well, why do we even need to play this game? There's two wonderful magical words you can use. One is no, and the other one is shoo. Or you could even, if you really, we could say shish clone. It depends what sort of reaction you want to get out of them. Um, but the important thing is to just have fun with all of this and don't allow it to drag you down. Turn it, flip it over. If things have always been, the truth has been twisted and turned dark, the light has been turned dark. Well, if it's been twisted, then we can untwist it again. And it's unraveling um, this whole process. And as Nicole says, life is about having fun. We're not supposed to be all doom and gloom. We are supposed to be here for an experience. And why not make it a fun experience? Why make it something horrible? Um, I'm sorry, I keep forgetting to read these comments. I do apologise. Um, wow. I'll try and get these comments back afterwards. I think that's going to be the best way. Cigarettes kicking in, I think. Yeah, so I think what are we up to now? 26 minutes. That's probably long enough of me waffling anyway. So play it again, maybe make a few notes, because it's so easy. That's it with the truth seeking side. It's so easy to go into this overload and you bombard them with details, and it's about planting seeds. Again, 3D version explanation. If you're planting seeds, you don't want to tip the whole packet in one spot. You want to spread them out and just plant a seed. And some are going to grow, some won't take to the soil. It'd be too toxic. Because the truth is the truth. A lot of this clone mentality, if you do speak truthfully, they class it as being rude, to which the best answer probably is to say, and it is important to get it in this order because it's the last word is the one they normally remember because the attention span is short anyway. So just say the information is the information and it is the reaction that determines whether it is rude or honest, and sort of stress the word honest. And that is more likely to plant a seed, and then let them go away, let it mull it over. Some it's going to work with, some it's not. So anyway, just a few thoughts and ideas and hopefully some solutions that will help you get through the day. Because we all have good days, we all have bad days. They say about the moon, and yes, maybe the moon does influence tides, but where are the tides? We're 70 whatever percent water, so maybe that it's our tides because it's emotions, and we want to be on a calm sea for a prosperous voyage. Prosper us is the key word here, not prosper one or prosper at the expense of another. It's prosper us, because we need to be singing from the same song sheet to be a core of us, because the core is the magnetism that drives the electric and dielectric. This is the apple when you cut it in half. The torus fields, the magnetism drives the electric. We're continuously expected to pick a side, and we want to stay neutral and don't give power. And also, we always have the choice as to how we empower something, whether it be positive or negative. And I choose the positive route. And I hope this is sort of, if you've been feeling down, I hope this has brightened your day up a bit. And anyway, I'm going to finish there. And yeah, nearly 30 minutes. That's plenty long enough. So I wish you all well and have a full day, night, evening, morning, whatever you want to call it. Okay. Thanks very much. Oh, ta-ta for now, I should say, before this does actually cut out. Mustn't forget that, because we want this utopian Tartaria now, but we can't have everything instantly. But you know what I mean. What we got on the screen here? Are you sure that you want to? Yeah, okay. It will. Come on.